So, PC Gamer released an interview they had with Yoshi-P this past Gamescom, and I wanted to share a video with you guys regarding some of these points, because the reception to the interview has been incredibly interesting to see. I'm not going to cover the entire interview. The entire interview is going to be down below, and the link is in the description of the video in case you want to check it out yourself. I already went through it. I'm just going to touch the main points of the interview. For example, I'm going to talk about, the main title that people are talking about, which is that Yoshi-P says, if the question is whether I was shocked by the mixed reception to Dawntrail's story, the answer is no, not really. I have seen people react to this on Twitter, on the forums, and on YouTube that say, oh, that means Yoshi-P knew that the expansion was shit and he still released it. That's not the case, that's not what that means. Dawntrail is the start of a completely new story after the climax that Endwalker was. After the climax of 10 years of story, you start a new story, you're going to get mixed receptions no matter what you do. You cannot live to the expectations that people have, and they even mention it on this interview. Here it is. This being a game, it's a form of entertainment, and you'll always see some form of mixed response at the time Yoshi-P begins. A second factor is that in Walker, we reach a big climax of long-standing spanning story. To a certain extent, I had already predicted that we would have some sort of mixed response this time. So, if the question is whether I was shocked by a big way, the answer is no, not really. It is interesting to hear that Yoshi-P was expecting some kind of conflicted response. Why is it surprising? And it's entirely fair considering the sheer weight of expectation that old-timers like Shadowbringers and Endwalkers had placed upon its shoulders. The way Yoshi-P tells it, however, the main bugbear through Dawntrail's development appears to be the pacing, which is true. The pacing of Dawntrail was atrocious at the beginning. It was quite a slog. They could have made it more interesting. But I do not understand people saying, oh, you knew it was shit. No, that's not the case. The case here is that no matter what they release, it didn't matter what they did, not everyone is going to be happy about it. There was always going to be a mixed reception to this expansion because it's the start of a completely new story. And they cannot live to that expectation that easily. Now, that's not an excuse, but it's understandable. Now, granted, it is surprising how mixed it was. I myself expected it to be like a bit of a bumpy ride, sure, but not to this scale is the thing. Now, I think that's the part that people are kind of concerned about. The concept was journeying to a new land. We would be going to a new continent where we would be seeing new cultures, new races and characters. Let's be honest, we only met one new race. We only met the Pelu Pelu, and the Mamulja just got a little more fleshed out. That's it. And characters because of that, both in the development team and also from my side, we had this concept in mind in terms of cleanly and very attentively introducing this new aspect to this player. However, Yoshi-P knows that while there were plenty of people who enjoyed the New Horizon, others found the pacing to be less than optimal. There were some people who thought that some of the tempo in the main scenario quest was slow, and they wanted to get through the more thrilling parts of the plot at a faster pace. He then goes on to admitting that there were some story beats the team could have diverted to the side quest, so if anyone was interested in learning more about them, then they could just play the side quest at their own time and enjoy it at their own pace. I myself am trying to think what quests in the main story would we use as side quests. Because the Pelu Pelu do introduce the part of the whole trade and trying to get Wuklama to understand how that works. It was a little long. Was it 3 times? The rule of 3 is always applicable, but I forgot if it was 3 or 4 times that this happened. The whole thing about learning how the crops grow in what's the name? Heritage Found. That could have been a side quest. Heritage Found, I just don't like. I don't like Heritage Found's quests. We did see some feedback from people who want to tackle the battle content faster, so because we saw that type of feedback, we will take on board as a learning process and experience. This is a little concerning, but I'm not entirely mad about it. I am trying to rewrite Dawntrail in my own fanfic, kind of how I would fix it, kind of pedantic way. But I did make mention that the whole thing in the boat, the storm that happened on the boat, that could have been an instance. That could have been battle content. Right away, boom. Let us do something. But we did spend 6 to 7 hours without any gameplay. It was just people talking for the most part. So I'm trying to think. We arrived to the city. We went to check the area, the zones with Wuklamat and Kryl. We checked the stones. We checked the Dawn Servant story in the stones, but I'm gonna be honest. Checking out the Dawn Servant story on those stones, you could just skip that. That could have been skipped. That could have been part of learning the story after we're given the tablets. I'm gonna be honest. That could have been skipped. Skip that part and make us read the story after we receive the tablets. Done. After receiving the tablets, we decide to go to either the Pelu Pelu or the Hanu Hanu? Yes. And I'm trying to think, because with the Pelu Pelu we just do the trading. And with the Hanu Hanu, we do fight a couple of monsters in the Hanu Hanu. That's it. But it took us like what? 7 to 8 hours? Something like that? It's like, oh. This is kind of why I replayed Stormblood recently. It's kind of why I like Stormblood. Stormblood starts right away with traveling to the new location, and it sends you on missions where you fight mobs. I know people say, oh, MMOs, you just fight mobs over and over, but it's gameplay. Dawntrail was treated too much like a visual novel, and it lacked a lot of gameplay. I'm a firm believer that Final Fantasy XIV needs minigames. Give me a block puzzle. Give me a tic-tac-toe. Give me a turret section. Give me anything. Give me a gameplay. That's why in Endwalker, my favorite section of Endwalker is actually the This is Thancred mission. And the moment when Xenos steals your body and you're in the body of the Guardian. Those two sections are my favorite in the entire expansion because I get to play differently. It's a more engaging gaming experience for me. So I hope they work out this whole like battle content stuff in the MSQ. Just make it more engaging than just talking to characters for like 9 hours. Yoshi-P also commented on the mixed feedback regarding Wuklamat. While she's become a scapegoat for everything wrong with Dawntrail's story in the eyes of fans, my general opinion is that she's fine, but a waking bag of symptoms for their other shortcomings. She's a representation of the difficulty Dawntrail has prioritizing its characters. In that, she takes the center stage while other characters like Kryl and Erenbil and the Scions suffer. Let's see what Yoshi-P has to say about this though. For Yoshi-P, one of the issues he's observed from the community was the character's initial difficulties in fulfilling the role of prospective Dawn Servant, which typically manifested in bouts of seasickness and spotty knowledge of her people's culture outside her home city of Tural. We depicted Wuklamat as someone who had a bit of complex towards her parents, and also towards her siblings. And because of that lack of confidence, I think that also contributed to the slow pace and a feeling of frustration. If we had maybe portrayed her as more of a confident character, maybe we would not have encountered that kind of situation. So in that regard, I feel that we did something quite bad for Wuklamat as a character. And taking on this experience, it made me realize that it's important to consider those things when it comes to showcasing the characters to the players. I made mention of this during the stream, and I heavily disagree with Yoshi-P in this case. I think he's taking the wrong feedback for I think he's taking the wrong feedback for Wuklamat's like response. Don't get me wrong, her seasickness and overall lack of confidence, yeah, it was a little annoying. But the problem with that is not that it was annoying because of the flaws. It was annoying because it was constantly repeated. I kept making the joke like, oh man, I love when a character just keeps telling me how insecure they are. It was too much. The real problem with Wuklamat is not that she has flaws, is that she is overexposed to the player. She repeats herself multiple times, she repeats her flaws multiple times, she repeats her beliefs multiple times, and she takes the spotlight from all the other characters who are just non-existent entities for the entirety of the expansion until the very end. Wuklamat having flaws is not bad. It's the overuse of the flaws that caused the issue. You wanna know what happens when you have a character with no flaws? You could raise Skywalker. The last thing you want is to introduce a character who is going to be this obnoxious, and not only that, is super confident on themselves. Because that just becomes a really obnoxious character that is full of himself. You know what I mean? So Yoshi-P, you need to understand this part. If any content creator out there that can talk to Yoshi-P, let him know. Character having flaws is not the problem. The overuse and overexposure of said flaws and said character is the problem. From what I have seen online and from my own personal experience, Wukelamat's overuse in the story was the real problem, because that left every other character with nothing to do. I am here starving for more Kryl and Erenville content, but instead I'm dragged away from them by Wukelamat. That is the problem, not her having flaws. Her having flaws is actually good, because that means she can get over them. She can overcome her flaws. She can become better. It's a character arc. If she started confident and ended confident, that would just be obnoxious. Not only that, the whole thing of a bit of a complex towards her parents and towards her siblings, I personally believe we should have seen more moments of her interacting with Soralja. Soralja got so underused in the story for how big of a big villain he was. But yeah, this does hold some true, but not in the way they think. You know what I mean? So any content creator who may listen to what I'm saying, please, a character having flaws is not the problem. The overuse of the character and its flaws is the problem here. Because this just gives me the fear that they're going to start adding characters who are just perfect. And that is a problem. On to the second part. There was another interview, and Yoshi-P is talking about the Scion's half-hearted role in Dawntrail. Says that we'll likely use smaller, more selective groups of beloved NPCs in the future. You know what about this? Through my entire experience to Dawntrail, I kept saying, why the hell are you here? Why are the Scions here? The only reason they gave you such a big group of characters is so they can fill up the trust system. And I'll say it again. I will say it again and again and again. If you're bringing the Scions over just for them to be trust system characters, leave them back in Eorzea. I want to have an adventure of my own. When Tataru gave us that new adventurer outfit, I expected us to start going into adventures by ourselves, without the Scions. Just start from zero, start from scratch. Instead, we just brought them back with us, and they're just tools to be used. And that sucks. I have plenty of opinions on the story of Dawntrail in Final Fantasy XIV. It's a narrative that I enjoyed, but found more problems with the longer I sat with it. Yeah, I've been there this past couple of months. It's just been me thinking about how I would try to fix it. My biggest bugbear by far is... What does he keep saying bugbear? However, was how they didn't quite prioritize his characters properly, leaving me feel some more underutilized at their best and downright cardboard cutouts of the former selves at their worst. The Scions of the Seven Dawn to the entire expansion were just non-existent entities. They were just there to spout some exposition or whatever, and then move on. Only there to serve as your characters in the trust system, just to fill up the party composition, and that sucked. I just felt like they were tools. They were not characters. In my honest opinion, I feel like we should not be having the Scions of the Seven Dawn anymore. Give them a break for 1 or 2 expansions. 2 tops. This part of... That's not to say that the focus on a new cast is a bad thing, mine, but to keep things brief, I think you gotta commit either way. Have your Science bodies take genuine, thoughtful supporting roles if you want. Or have them be busy elsewhere, but you gotta pick one. Yoshi-P says, we wanted to showcase all of the Scions, but we also wanted to showcase new characters, and we wanted to see what would be the response. Yoshi-P explains, we wanted to see whether people would be like, oh no, we don't want any more Scions, please just get rid of them. Or, on the other hand, people might be saying, hey, we want our Scions back. So we thought that we would need to do this eventually, and so, in that sense, it was a challenge we took on. As expected, he continues, there were some people who were arguing that they wanted to see the Scions more in the spotlight, and there were also others who said that they wanted to see the Scions on the step down and not be the focus. So in that regard, I felt that we had a lot of lessons which we gained from Dawntrail. The lesson being, people don't want to see the Scions be shown in a half-hearted way. Yeah. As mentioned before, showcasing some characters in a half-baked way was definitely not a good thing, so moving forward we would like to be more dramatic in the way we create the story. The word choice dramatic here could mean a handful of things, again a quick of having this translated, blah 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 blah. Graha is a super popular character, so I myself am very aware of the kind of reaction we could get if we had an expansion where he doesn't make an appearance. But having said that, if a character doesn't appear in one expansion, that doesn't mean they will never appear again. Rather, we are considering doing things in a certain order. So maybe in a given expansion such as shared character will be the focus, and then in the next expansion another group of characters will be the focus. I think the possibility of going down this route is the highest. I mentioned this before. If you are not going to be using the Scions for anything else other than just having them on the screen. Yes, oh look, he is here. Oh look, she is here. Oh look, all my friends are here. And just for that, don't have them. I'll be honest, at the end of Endwalker, when they said, oh, the Scions of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are splitting up, I'm like, wow, everyone is gonna go do their own thing. Nah, they're not. They're gonna stay together. And they're gonna do the thing together, and they're never gonna leave your side. I honestly believe we need to go on an adventure of our own. Have the Scions of the Seventh Dawn do something else. Have them be busy with something else. Y'shtola could just still be researching how to travel through worlds, which at this point is, I guess, null. Have them appear in the patches if you want, but I'll be honest, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn need a little break. Either have them be involved with the story and actively do something and participate and let us have moments with them, like going to the beach, or have us focus on the other characters and the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are nowhere to be seen. Have them be doing their own thing. I honestly believe you should not be relying on the appearance of a Scion for the sake of, oh, people are gonna be mad if this character doesn't show up. No, they can deal with it. A character doesn't have to be there at all times, because this also tells me, wow, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are just completely immortal then. If they're afraid of a character not showing up for an expansion, do you really think they're going to kill them at some point? No. They're all safe, they're fine. Just leave them away. Well, yeah. These were the interviews that they had with Yoshi-P in the Gamescom. A lot of things I agree, a lot of things I disagree with, more that I disagree with than anything. I'm just really concerned that the Yoshi-P and the development team are getting the wrong impressions from this entire thing. But I don't know, what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments and we'll talk later. I am so scared for the future of this game.